My name is Jeff H. Sipe, and I have over 10 years of recruiting experience, including 5 years at Google. In this video, we are going to cover one of the biggest mistakes candidates make in the interview process: taking your time to answer interview questions. What if I told you that taking up to 2 minutes would yield better results? This is what's happening with my clients. My clients are taking a minute or two to think about the answers, and it's yielding better results. And their answers are actually shorter because they have a plan, they have a methodology, and it really, really helps. In reality, this delay is way more awkward for you than it is for your interviewer. They want you to come up with a good, reasonable, well-defined answer. If you like my content, please like. If you have any comments, love comments. And if you like my overall content, please subscribe. So let's dive in. And ideally, I want you to have a second tab open where you're going to be using a stopwatch and/or have your phone ready as you go through these exercises. Item 1, practice. For the vast majority of us, our default mode is going to be quick responses. The only way to break this pattern is to practice. Grab some questions off of Google, throw them into a doc, and before answering each one of them, brainstorm, plan, write out your high-level notes, and then stop that stopwatch and see how much time that took. And likely it's going to take a minute or two to come up with this initial plan. After doing this, now I want you to practice with a job coach, a current or former colleague, a friend, a family member, a significant other. And with any of these people that you practice with, don't tell them that this is a part of the process that you're going to implement. At the end, just ask for feedback. Were my pauses too long? Now remember, you're going to tell them that you need a minute to think about the answer, and we'll dive more into that in item number 3. Okay, let's transition to a phone, video, or in-person interview. So item 2, very common for me to talk about: restate and ask follow-up and clarifying questions. And you may be asking yourself, Jeff, why would I need to do this before a behavioral interview question, for example? I've already practiced a perfect answer to a conflict question, a collaboration question, etc. But the restating and asking follow-up and clarifying questions will give you more clarity. And it's really important that you weave the high-level concepts of the question back into your answer. So even if it's behavioral, you want to do this, your example might be great, but if you're not implementing the specificity of the question, it's not going to be as good as it could be. Item 3, tell them you're going to take a minute or two to formulate your answer. 2 critical items with this step. 1, you need to tell them that you're going to take the time. And then secondly, don't ask, tell. This second step seems a little ridiculous, but you might get an interviewer that says no if you ask. So just overcome it by telling them. These little details are really important. So it is very important that you say, I am going to take a minute or two to think about and come up with a good answer. Remember, you are going to need to cater this approach a little bit, whether it's phone, video, or on-site. With video and on-site, they're going to be able to see what you're doing, especially on-site, but in the phone, they don't. So you may need to give a little bit of additional context, such as, I know this might sound like awkward silence, but I would like to organize my thoughts. Also for the phone, this is where you need to have a slightly higher awareness. If you're taking 2 minutes, they might assume that you're looking up the answer to the question, so you may want to take 30 seconds to a minute instead of 2 minutes when taking your time in a phone interview. Now for a video interview, I recommend that you do have a pen and paper because, again, you might have 2 screens, you might have a split screen, and they might think that you're looking something up, but if you have head down with a pen and paper, it's more obvious that you're taking notes. For both the phone and the video interviews, you can refer to notes, but remember that can be a crutch. It might not be as helpful as you think. Your restating of the question and your follow-up and clarifying questions are going to be more helpful. Don't be searching around for your answers. Really get right into thought process. It will be the better move. And then lastly, for the on-site, you can absolutely go to the whiteboard. So don't be afraid to go to the whiteboard to organize your thoughts if that's a comfortable place for you. Item 4, thought process and more questions. While you're brainstorming and taking your time, this doesn't mean you need to be silent. Quite the opposite. If you have questions as you're brainstorming, say them out loud. Say your thought process out loud as you're writing things down. That will help your interviewer get a sense of what you're doing and what's going on in your mind. And remember, this might come up in a couple of different ways. So again, you could be saying it out loud, but on a whiteboard, even on a pen and paper, you might be drawing out diagrams, and you're going to look for cues here too. So if an interviewer, when they think, they look up to the side or they say items like, I see what you're saying, the visual piece is going to be really important. That's another video, but just doing a little bit of adapting and adjusting and talking out loud, drawing on the whiteboard can be super, super helpful. And that's a great segue into item 5, which is adapting, adjusting, flexing. Taking your time works, but you need to pick up on the cues from your interviewer, the body language, and what they're telling you. So if they're telling you, I need you to take less time, or they look really annoyed when you're taking a lot of time, you need to say to yourself, maybe I really need to be taking a little less time. And or some questions, maybe you want to switch it up and you don't want to take any time at all. While I don't recommend this, you're going to need to adapt and adjust your audience. And that's feedback for any of my advice. Always be adapting and adjusting. So it only works to the extent that it's working with your interviewer. Is this a simple concept? Yup. Is it easy to take your time? Absolutely not. It takes practice. Be methodical in your approach. Following a process can really simplify and just take some stress away from the day. Take your time to organize your thoughts. It's extremely helpful. I hope this helps. Thanks so much.